Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Hello, everyone. It's Becky Brown. I am your host today. So glad to be here with you. And we have a special show today. We have a couple of special guests. We have Shaunti Feldhahn and Dr. 𝙉𝙬𝙬 And Shaunti is the author of many books, such as The Good News About Marriage for Women Only, for Men Only. And Dr. Jim has also written a bunch of books, Family Therapies, Relational Restoration Model, among others. But here's why they're here today. They just came out with a book, When Hurting People Come to Church. I have been part of a local church for many years, and the power and the value of my church community is immeasurable. And I know many of you listeners are part of a local church and know the value of joining together each week and serving together. But sometimes when we bring our pain into church, our beloved congregants don't know what to do with our pain. And Jim, I remember a comment that you made a couple of weeks ago. We were in a meeting together, and you said, I would be glad for somebody to come and pay me my fee. But in reality, there's a lot of stuff that people can talk about and connect with in the church, and it can be supportive. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely true. I mean, I love being a psychologist. I love engaging into the depths of people's pain, and I'm trained to work with people who have mental health issues. There is a diagnosable disorder, but a lot of people are just having pain. Life hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Life hard. Mm-hmm. Life is hard. Nobody gets a pass on that one. It's hard for everybody. Now, that person does not just need to see necessarily a licensed therapist. It might be wonderful for them to do so, but to prepare the church body to be able to be comfortable with sitting with another who has the everyday pain that thwarts us all, that just knocks us to our knees and causes us to pray, God, how do I address this? That's what the church is supposed to do.
We love that. And Shaunti, I know you've done a lot of research on this topic. And what were some of the surprising things that you discovered?
Well, it was interesting. Jim and I, as we were going through the research process for this, we were needing to find out what the church already thinks and what they're already doing. And so we interviewed and surveyed more than 2,000 pastors and church leaders to try to understand what is it that's happening today around mental and emotional health in the church, because it's such a huge need. And we found a couple of things across the board. First of all, it is a huge need, and everybody recognizes it. The average pastor is just pretty overwhelmed. The average clinician is pretty overwhelmed, just with the sheer number of people waiting outside their doors. The numbers for the nation, just so people have a perspective on this, about 60 million people have a diagnosed issue and only 30 million are getting help. That's a large number of people who need the help that we're talking about the church providing.
I'm always amazed at when we get into the data and we really understand what's really happening. There's so many people that we can help within the church, and let's help the church do what the church can do.
Yeah.
I know that was the inspiration for this book. Maybe you have been part of a church for a long time and you're hearing this topic and you're wondering, or maybe you've had the experience where you've been hurt in church because you didn't feel cared for. We want to talk to you today. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. Jim and Shaunti have a wealth of wisdom, and we also believe in the power of that change can be at the local church level. We'll be right back.
We've been married 33 years. We attended the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop. Even though we've read books, or attended a few other marriage weekends, this was certainly different and a lot more intensive than initially that we thought.
When you come to intimacy in marriage, you're going to be immersed into a 3-day process.
Was not really sure exactly what to expect, but the idea of learning to really understand intimacy was intriguing. We had been in the same patterns of struggle over and over again.
If you've thought, I don't think we can ever change, we're just in this rut and we can't get out, the Intimacy in Marriage workshop can help you get out of the rut.
The Intimacy in Marriage Weekend is October 17th to the 19th in Dallas, Texas. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
I would highly recommend it.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. It is a special show. Today you have me, Becky Brown, along with Shaunti Feldhahn and Dr. Jim Sells. They are the author of the book, When Hurting People Come to Church. It just came out, and I'm kind of curious, Shaunti and Jim, what inspired you to write this book? What was the project all about? How did it start?
Very good. Take it, Shaunti. I'll jump in later.
Okay. Well, the main thing that inspired the project is that we actually had a major donor who wants to remain nameless, who wants to remain anonymous, who basically stepped forward a number of years ago and said, the mental health crisis has reached such urgent levels. There's so many people in pain and so many people who can't afford help from a counselor or can't, get off the waiting list early enough to see a counselor. And we think the church has an opportunity to be the hero and to really help solve the mental health crisis in some way, and to get back to what it used to do before everything became so professionalized and people became nervous about doing stuff in the church. Which is just people walking alongside one another for the basic needs that don't need the clinical psychologist, for example, like Jim is. And so it was sort of an exploration of what would be needed. And we realized really quickly that the average pastor would love to do more in the church. The average pastor would love to help be a solution to people's pain. That's one of the reasons they got into pastoring. And yet 88% of the pastors on our survey that we just completed, 88% of them think, but I'm not allowed. I'm supposed to refer out to a professional. That's all I'm allowed to do. That's my job. And so we knew a book was needed to cast this vision that brought in all of the data from what's already happening, because there's thousands of churches out there who are already doing this well. And to be able to share another vision, which is let's do both and.
Yes, yes. I love that. Jim?
Yeah, so about the same time that Shaunti and I met in relationship with this person who was wanting to fund the project, I had written a book about my observations of the mental health need, but for academics. It was a InterVarsity Press academic book written to professors around how we should train counselors in our seminaries and our Christian colleges, given the new world, given that the church could play a big role in this. So when this funding source came, it was the invitation for a team to be created to build out all the resources necessary for the church to do what the church can do in terms of training videos and manuals and leadership guides and all the resources necessary is what we've been working on for the past year and a half as Shaunti and I have written this book. So it's now available at our website, thechurchcares.com. It's free. Everything that a church needs to do to start this a type of ministry, and there's so many varieties and unique outcomes of what can happen. We have created just a host of resources for you all to start. And you just go in, you can download the material, it's yours. You can sign up for meetings and get consultation. there's the link. It's meant for you to be as a church leader or as a congregant who says, I would like to create this in my church. We have supplied the resources for you to start, and
I love that.
can supply the consultation for you to get guidance as you begin.
You know, we're carrying your book, When Hurting People Come to Church, at newlife.com. You know, we are so aware of the needs that people have. And like you said, Shaunti, a lot of times they go straight to the pastor, and then the pastor doesn't feel qualified many times, but also from the I was going to say client, congregant's point of view, the pastor knows everything, right? I mean, he or she is the king of the church. And so if I'm going to get help, that's where I'm going to go. And so, you know, what have you discovered when when those are challenges that are unmet? You know, people are looking for help. The pastor is not equipped or over stressed with everything else that they have to do. What was some of the findings as you did this research?
So it's really interesting. The most important sort of starting point is that, like I said, every pastor wants to be able to help everybody. Like, that's one of the reasons many of them became pastors. And yet there's this feeling of helplessness on the part of many pastors where they're like, you know, somebody came to me with, you know, a need for some trauma in their past. I'm not a trauma therapist. I don't know how to help them psychologically with, you know, different interventions. And so it'll take me a few weeks to see them. And then I know I'm going to just refer them out to a counselor. And there's this feeling of, shouldn't I be able to do more? But every pastor is the busiest person I know, right? And so it's an encouragement to the pastor, especially, to be able to say, look, there is a way that you can raise up lay people in the church to come alongside the basic needs that don't necessarily have to go see the counselor. They may still, but we kind of suggest that it's both and. And here's also what happens is that person has somebody who's walking alongside them. It's far less likely that they're going to end up with like the church hurt because the pastor didn't, you know, spend all his time caring for me, which is not realistic, but hurting people can hurt people, and it's far less likely that will happen.
They sure can. Well, you know, one of the things that we do here is we take calls, and we've got a call right now with Susie. She's calling us from Dallas, listens on KWRD. Hi, Susie. I'm glad you called. Do you have a question or a comment for Jim and Shaunti?
I do. Thank you for taking my call. My question is, my husband and I were in membership at our local church and pretty involved. Our pastor decided to retire, kind of was forced out. We were without a pastor for a while. They did eventually find someone new. And the new pastor was not interested in hearing from any of the members of the congregation. It was his way or the highway, very narrow-minded. Consequently, he lost a lot of the membership in the congregation, along with a lot of the elders, the church ministers, and everyone else, because it was his way or the highway. My husband and I are now in a church that is the exact opposite. The pastor is very approachable, always listens to any concerns anyone has, and I've really found a church family. But how do you reach pastors that are so narrow-minded and are not willing to listen to any of the concerns, especially when they're coming new into a brand new congregation?
Yeah.
Jim?
I'm sorry that was your experience. I'm so glad you have found an environment. There's a rule that I operate with when I find unreasonableness, when I find behavior or attitudes that just don't make sense. What I'm looking at is people's pain. And when we are in pain, we might exercise real rigid in control. We might be highly emotionally reactive. We might just kind of like hunker down and be unreasonable. That's pain talking. And so I think what you can do, you can't swing a big stick, but you can humbly pray for that pastor to experience the level of insight and humility around his, or in not just his case, but her case. And we're talking men and women who are in this pain state that causes us just to be not very creative, not very open. We become fearful, and fear is one of the manifestations of our, or control is one of the manifestations of our fear. So that's where I would start, but I'm so glad that you have found a healthy place for you to thrive.
I
love that.
Our church.
That's awesome, Susie.
Love
That's
our
awesome.
church.
Can you see, though, Susie, what Jim's talking about, that, we experience the pain of that person? Yes, in this case, he was the pastor, but so many times that is the challenge, isn't it?
Yes, I understand that, but I also see him saying to me, my last comment to him was, why aren't we praying for our leadership? And why aren't we praying for our country? And I've always experienced that in every single church I've ever attended. And I'm not a youngster, so always praying for the leadership, whether you like them or not, and for the country, because God hears everything. And for him to say, I have to think about that and pray about it, really raised an eyebrow with me. And he said, look at this church. It's all filled up again. When the previous pastor left, the church was empty. Well, yes, it was empty because it was during COVID. Nobody was in church. But he was more concerned on his speech that continued, and look at our bank account. And I wanted to take him and just wring his neck and say, why are you so concerned about the bank account? If you trust in God, that should be the least of your worries. The very, very least of your worries.
Susie, I'm glad you didn't wring his neck. That's not a good way to go about it. But it can be very frustrating, though, because our expectations of what we'll experience in church can run right into the reality that people are messy. And I love that word, Jim, unreasonableness. Shaunti, what would you like to add to this conversation?
Well, I'm thinking about people even beyond Susie. And Susie, thanks for sharing your story. And I will add my gratitude to Jim's that you have found a church home that really is a place you can thrive. Well, but I'm thinking about people who are listening to this who they may be in a similar spot to where you used to be, or they may just think, my pastor's not going to be interested in this. There's nothing we can do. And here's my encouragement for that person. Okay, that may actually be true, but you don't know until you try. And one of the things that we saw, Jim and I just came back from a week at the big world convention that happens every 2 years of the American Association of Christian Counselors. And there's 7,000 counselors and pastors who are learning and walking around. And we had a booth in the exhibit hall. And as pastors and counselors and church volunteers were coming into our booth and talking about this, it was really clear that there were sort of three different groups. One of the groups is, you might call them they're kind of stuck. They're not going to get this. They're not interested. They think the job should be to refer out to a licensed counselor, and that's it. And I'm not sure you're going to convince them otherwise right now. Like there are things that you can do, but that may be something that the church doesn't pick up as a ministry area that they see the need for if the pastor doesn't. But then there's a big group that you would call kind of in the middle, which is interested in this. And those people are willing to have the conversation. They just are busy and they need somebody to come alongside and say, I'll help. And then there's a third group that we were very encouraged by, which is churches that are already doing something in this area. I would say any church, for example, that has a New Life recovery group, they already get that you need lay people. So work with the two groups that get this.
I love that. Susie, we're going to send you a copy of Jim and Shaunti's book, When Hurting People Come to Church. You can get a copy as well, listeners, at newlife.com, or you can call us. We would love to hear from you, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to talk more about how we can be good church people in the best ways, and we need to be that. We'll be right back after this. Nobody gets married thinking that they're going to get divorced, yet there are so many people that experience divorce. How do we get through it? It can feel like it's the end of your story, but we also know that life goes on. So how do we get the healing that we need?
The Moving Forward Hope After Divorce webinar is Thursday evening, October 16th.
The live session will offer recovery tips like how to process grief in a healthy biblical way, practical steps for emotional healing after divorce, how to set healthy boundaries. This session is for anyone who's separated, divorced, or still navigating the long-term impact of divorce. Maybe you've been divorced for many years and you're still holding on to that resentment.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go online to newlife.com.
It's not information, it's an invitation to heal, to hope, to rebuild, to trust that God has more for your story.
Start your new chapter today. 1-800-NEW-LIFE, 1-800-639-5433. Club New Life changes lives.
You guys came along into my life in 2022. That was a really, really difficult year of my life.
You can help New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people by joining Club New Life today.
I began to really process a lot of things that I've needed to for a long time, and y'all were a very big part of that.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
I came out of it having never experienced anything like that, and y'all were there.
Join today and help continue the message of hope to a troubled world.
I knew I had to keep going, and I joined Club New Life, and y'all have been the resource that has now been a light for my wife and I.
Go to newlife.com/CNL, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places.
Keep doing what you do because it makes a difference.
newlife.com/CNL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, New Life exists to help people in all different walks of life, and we do this with your help. If you have not already given, please give today. It makes a difference in the lives of so many people. Just yesterday on the show, we had a young man who called from college who's dealing with some struggles, and he called the show. When you think about the ways that the radio ministry reaches out to so many people wherever they are, and then of course the different things that New Life has done for over 36 years, as well as the fact that you're listening right now, I want to encourage you, give today. You're going to make a difference in the lives of someone, and it might be you. You can give at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can go to newlife.com, or you can text the word NLM to 28950. Any gift is going to be greatly appreciated and is going to make an impact in the lives of so many people. I just am grateful for all of you who support New Life and what God is doing through the ministry. Today, we're talking with Shaunti Feldhahn and Dr. Jim Sells, the authors of When Hurting People Come to Church. I mentioned at the opening of the show, I am a lifelong church girl. I love the local church. I love the power of God working through the people in the pews. And then beyond that, I've seen how the church can make an impact in the community. But here's where the challenge is there usually, you've heard this statistic before, is it 20% of the people in the church do 80% of the work? Is that about right? Shaunti and Jim, have you heard that before?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so the challenge is, how do we get more people to understand the power of helping? And one part of the book that I love so much is the part that's called The Necessary People. What a great title for that that section, where you outline the different ways. And you mentioned, Shaunti, before the break about the New Life Recovery groups. We have over 740 New Life Recovery groups that meet every week across the globe. These are people that are coming together to not only just work on addiction, but just process the stuff that their life has, and they know how to do it. So, that is, the recovery groups are one of the things that you guys talk about there. Let's expand that. How have you seen that impact the local church?
Jim, do you want to take that one?
I sure can. I want to start at the bottom and go up.
Okay.
So up in terms of structure, hierarchy within the church. First thing is, we wrote this book not for people who maybe first feel called to be in ministry. Rather, we wrote this book for the common denominator of everybody that attends church. Mm-hmm. Everybody that attends church that interacts with other people who also attend church. Mm-hmm. So we want you to be prepared and comfortable in attending to the pain of another, and we want you to be prepared to trusting others to help work out the issues and challenges that you face. So I've used this illustration. Like, imagine you're Megan and you work with 3-year-olds during the Sunday school hour, and you hand to a young mom. We'll call her Maria. Maria's son, Micah. And all you say is, Micah had a hard time today. He just wanted to sit in my lap. And that's just essential information that you would give to every parent as you give the child back to mom or dad at the end of the Sunday school hour while they went to their Sunday school class, and you had the privilege of just watching their 3-year-old. And Maria just starts to weep. And all Megan did was just give her some information. Now what do I do? Well, there's a stun, and there's a freeze, and there's a who do I have talk to Maria? No, Megan, God put you there. You were to talk to her. So you say to Maria, there's no one in the nursing room right now. How about you and I just sit and talk for a few minutes? And 3 things from our training, or 3 basic skills. You know how to listen. You know how to pray, and you have a real simple problem-solving immediacy strategy that you can walk Maria through. And you're not a counselor, but you know what to do when people are in pain. That's where we start.
That. I love that, Jim, because so many times it's just holding that space for someone, and they don't have to have all the answers. They don't have to fix it. I love that. Yeah. Shaunti, what would you add to that?
Yeah. I was going to say, hey, Shaunti, tell them, actually, Shaunti and I have talked many times around, Shaunti has a Becky story. It's not you, Becky, but it's a Becky story. Can you talk about that, Shaunti, on the upper level?
Well, maybe she can. I think we've lost her audio.
Uh-oh.
But Jim, why don't you tell the story of Becky until we get Shaunti back?
So imagine Pastor Jones is standing in the foyer after the sermon, and someone comes to Pastor Jones and says, I've just realized that I have to attend to my sexual abuse that occurred to me when I was an adolescent. And you're the first person, Pastor, that I've ever spoken to. Can I talk with you about that? So here he is in the middle of a large group of people shaking hands and saying, thank you for coming to the service. And this comes to him, and he is a bit befuddled and flummoxed, and what do I do now, because we're in a public place? So he says, call the church tomorrow, and let's get on as soon as we can.
Okay, hold that thought, Jim. Hold that thought. And we're going to go to a break, and then you're going to hear the rest of that story right after this.
I became aware that my husband had had an affair. He was viewing porn on the computer. I was totally unaware of anything like sex addiction. Through the workshop, I truly believe my soul has been restored. The workshop educated me about what sex addiction was. It also gave me courage. I learned how to stand up for myself. Without a doubt, it was the most significant thing that I did.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Washington, D.C. November 7th to the 9th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Enter the code NLL for a discount.
That workshop is where I found the tools and the people to heal from this most heartbreaking thing of my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. Do you need help for life's hard situations?
My husband recently said he wanted a divorce.
I'm confused on what I should do.
I have an eating disorder.
New Life Live answers your questions on relationships, grief, addiction, trauma, anxiety, and much more, all from a biblical perspective with our panel of professional counselors and psychologists.
I learn a lot from your program.
You help so many people.
I appreciate your ministry.
Whether you listen or watch, there are so many ways to connect with us to ask our panel of counselors a question. Call us Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at 1-800-229-3000 to ask your question on New Life Live. Or go to newlife.com/radio for other ways to get your question answered.
I'm trying to find help.
I just want to know how to set boundaries.
If it's a sin, what am I supposed to do?
Need a therapist or a coach, a resource, or an intensive? Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're having a conversation about the church and helping its own. And Jim, you were in the middle of a story which happens so many times where the pastor's confronted with a big major issue right as everybody's walking out the door. So what did the pastor do?
Yeah. So imagine that pastor in terms of, I just scheduled you, or she's going to call me this week. I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Roll the tape back, and this was Shaunti's story that she spoke with a pastor saying, imagine, Pastor Jones, that you had this to say. Schedule an appointment with me. I look forward to seeing you, to praying with you, to being with you, and we talked about this. Before that happens tomorrow, you're going to get a call from Becky. I will give Becky your phone number. Becky is a retired nurse practitioner. She works as our coordinator. She receives calls and makes connections with others. I happen to know that there are many women in our church who know somewhat of what your experience is, and they're further along in the journey, and they would like to be with you, to pray with you, to talk with you as you walk through this weighty and important time in your life. We want to be with you at every step of the way. So the pastor is doing his role of, I want to meet with her directly, but I also have a plan in place so that the broader church is capable of doing the thing that they do, even as maybe we find a clinician for this person, but we are not referring out, we are referring with. The church is to be present in the life of people as they go through pain.
I love that. Just that the church is to be present in the life of people as they go through pain. Here's what I know for sure. Now, Jim, you and I, because of our training, we're used to hearing all kinds of things. I have said many times there's not a story that I haven't heard that I am shocked by. And it's unfortunate. We just know that people carry hurt with them. But the interesting thing about when we go into church, the expectation is all the people in church have it all together. And so pain surprises us. We're shocked that people have struggles because isn't the fact that you go to church make your life perfect? I mean, I know, I'm being sarcastic, but, when you think about people, we have many faithful listeners who are churchgoers, and you know that the church plays a vital role in responding to mental health crises or the pain crises. How is the church currently doing that?
Yeah. I had a young pastor. I was listening to him preach, and he's young as in early 30s, and he said, expressed an idea to which I, as someone in his 60s, thought, oh, that's good. I'm glad I heard that. That's worth the whole sermon. He simply said, if you know your own sin, you know what you struggle with, you know the depths of your heart. If no one else knows, something is terribly wrong. If you're the only person that knows these things, then there is a crippling going on, and God cannot work in your life to the degree that God wants to bring healing, because it is bottled and contained, and you are isolated. Something is terribly wrong if you're the only one that knows.
It's so powerful.
In terms of how the church is doing, that's our primary task, to say not just I'm there to go to help people at church. No, I'm there to be helped. I'm there to for my pride to be confronted and seriously shrunk.
I love that.
I'm there for the grace of God to cover my own sin.
I love that. Well, we do have Shaunti back, and Shaunti, Jim told your story about Becky, but I'd love for you to speak into, how are we doing as a church when we think about these issues, where we present that we've got it all together, but everybody else does not. I mean, you know how that goes.
Oh man, well, it's such listen, the white picket fence tendency, which is what I call it, like the happy white picket fence. That is one of the things that every individual listening to this needs to be part of the solution by being vulnerable and being willing to reach out for help. And everybody also needs to be willing to reach out and ask. I don't know, Jim, did you tell her Jen's story of...
No, I did not. Go ahead. That's a great example.
It's a great example of the co-director of the Church Cares, which is the initiative that Jim is actually the director of. The co-director is a woman named Jen Ripley, and she tells a story of how she was going through a really difficult parenting situation a number of years ago, and just in church for worship in the balcony. And she thought she looked like she had it all together. But there was an acquaintance who came up to her after the service and basically said, "Are you okay?" And she said, I lost it and started talking. And it wasn't somebody who was like a really close friend, but it was an acquaintance. And she said, that's what we need, is for the church, for everyone in the church to know that, it's okay to go up to someone and say, are you okay? Rather than, let them have their privacy. I don't want to speak out of turn, or, whatever. Like, no, we're brothers and sisters in a family. And if you think that there's someone in distress, it should be okay to say, you know what, are you and Bob doing okay? Like, I noticed in our small group that there was a little tension. Is that something you want to talk about? We went through our own marriage issues a number of years back, and they were like, that person may put up walls. Okay, honor those. But that person may say, yeah, it's been a really difficult season. And that's when you say, do you want to have coffee?
I love that.
The reality is that we are all called. Every one of us is called to care for our brothers and sisters. The key is that for so many years we've thought only professionals were supposed to do that.
Right.
That we need to pull back that idea and say, this is nothing new. This is like, for example, your recovery groups. Again, this is what you guys do every day. It's just operationalizing that down into the church a little bit more so that it's a little more official, that when you see somebody in the balcony and you reach out and you say, "Are you okay?" that you actually have just a couple hours of training and listening under your belt.
Right.
And you feel
Do you
a
know,
little more confident.
it's so powerful too, Shaunti, when we equip people to understand that they don't have to have all the answers. One of the core values of New Life is connection, which we translate to redemptive relationships. And when you think about the ability to see someone's pain, knowing that you don't have to fix it, but you can be open to praying for them or just being kind. I love the story that you told Jim about the nursery worker, because that's true. And I always tell the story, we have a recovery ministry at our church as well. And I remember in the foyer, one of the attendees came in and she kind of ducked when she walked in the door, like looked above. And I said, "Well, what's that about?" And she said, "The roof didn't fall in." She said, I was afraid that if I walked into the church, the roof would fall in. And we have to remember that everybody's bringing their life into this space where in this day and age, the church is one of the last places where we come from all different places in our lives and come together to worship God. And yet there are many painful things in our life that keep us from going into that. And I love just the concept of the book when you're thinking about, going to church and you see the pain that people carry in. How can I help? And not thinking that everybody has to go to a professional or that you have to have all the answers. When you were doing your research on this, was there anything that surprised you that really stood out, like that you didn't even see coming?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
For sure. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things that was the most striking was, and I can't remember if I said this earlier, but 88% of pastors felt like it was their job, what the primary role that I have, if somebody has an issue that has, psychological implications rather than just spiritual ones, which, by the way, is a sort of a false distinction, but that's the way a lot of pastors thought about it. That my job is to refer out. But at the same time, 96% of those same pastors said the best way to foster good mental health inside the church is to have Christians walking alongside one another.
Yeah.
So there's this conflict, but that also creates an opportunity, because there is a recognition that we have this opportunity here in the body of Christ.
I love that. Well, it's Pastor Appreciation Month in October too, and so think about your pastors during this month.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His is.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are having a great conversation with Shaunti Feldhahn and sorry about that. Do you hear that ringing? It's the bell. When hurting people come to church, and we have been talking about the challenges of people getting the help that they need. But in this last segment, let's talk about how can the average person in the pew, not the pastor or the church member or church staff member, because we know that they are the experts, so to speak, right? What can they do to start caring for others without burning out or feeling overwhelmed? Jim, what would you suggest?
Yeah. Actually, our data suggests that's the best way to start ministry. It starts more effectively at the pew level with one or two people saying we want this, and then becoming educated as to what's possible and how they can connect ministry to their church, and to take that then to the pastoral staff or the deacon or elder board and say, this is a calling that we experience of God in our lives in this church. And frequently then pastors are saying, let me help you go. And sometimes, often, when it's coming from the top down, the pastor is the one approached. Then there's it falls off the plate because the pastor is so involved with so many different things, and it's up to the pastor to make it happen, and it doesn't, because there's preaching to be done on Sunday, and there was a funeral on Saturday, and all the other tasks that are placed in front of the church staff. So I'd say start with what it is you're called to do. If you want to contact us, actually on our website is not just what we do, but there's a host of ministries. New Life is on there of what are organizations that are doing things that you might contact to equip yourself in the vision that you have. So we are glad to be a clearinghouse for other people's ideas, because there's a lot of really good ones out there. And just making idea connected to people makes some very exciting things emerge.
If I could just jump in there, Becky.
Of course.
One of the things that we saw in the research that stood out really clearly is that the churches that were doing this already, and again, there is every conceivable iteration of this, because everybody's DNA is different, right? Every church is going to handle it differently. Right. But one of the things that tended to be a common denominator is that there was someone who stepped forward as the champion who said, I am passionate about this. Like, one woman told me, my best friend's son committed suicide, and that is never happening again. Right? Like, we are going to get a handle on this. We will figure out how to be the church and to step into this space, not just referring people out. I will take that as my, something I want to do in the church, go to the pastor and get their blessing. And then one of the things that worked really well with these churches is that the pastor would say on a Sunday morning when they were ready to have this kind of start up, is to say, look, we're thinking of doing this. We would like to form a working group. Would anyone who's interested, there's going to be an interest meeting next Thursday night at 7:00. If you're interested, sign up and come and join us. And just let's talk about how we might put this together. And several pastors told me that people came out of the woodwork, where people who hadn't volunteered in the church before because they didn't really feel like they knew how to handle children's ministry, or they weren't, interested in the parking ministry, but for some reason this hit their heart.
Right. I love that.
And they stepped forward, and now you have a working group of people, and as long as you have someone whose job it is to drive the train, it usually gets driven.
The phrase that I always think of is, it has to have somebody who loves it. If you have somebody who loves it, then it will grow from there. And the other part of that is the invitation. I've seen this in the life of the church so many times. There are people who have a calling, or they feel God speaking to them about an area of ministry, but they feel ill-equipped, and they think the church, like the pastor, the assistant pastors, the church staff, they're the experts, and unless they're saying it, then I shouldn't even talk about it. But let's encourage people who are listening today who have that calling. It could be that you have a desire to connect with somebody, but you don't even know where to begin. And like Shaunti, you just said, you go to the pastor, you go to the staff, and you start the conversation. But so many times, the new kind of version of church, many times we've got big churches. And so it's kind of like the professional church. You go in on Sunday, you go for the service, and then you go home and you feel kind of empty. But I want to encourage those of you, even in a large church, there is somebody sitting next to you that needs your compassion, that needs your connection. But Jim, how can we encourage people to take that step?
Yeah, that's a great way that you described it. It's worth noting that in our survey of the 2,000 pastors, we had 37 pastors who were pastors of megachurches of 10,000 or more. Like, wow, that's a lot of big churches.
Yeah, bigger than cities.
We had more than 600 pastors who pastored churches of 100 or less. So 600 voices were participating in this around what we can do. So we even make note of one of our exemplar churches that they're doing it really well, was a church of a very small congregation, but had an addictions ministry on Friday night that was multiple times larger than their church.
Wow.
So there are some phenomenal examples of great care that emanates out of churches, regardless of whether it's a mega church or it's a small country rural church. You can do it. Now, in terms of just where to start, we hear people's passions, and that's so exciting. What we try and do is create resources and make the resources available. And I love your illustration, Becky, around just like conducting the train. Good. It's your train. You conduct it. Let us be the resources of diesel or coal that will drive this train, and we'll give you the fuel. But it's your track, and you have to be thinking about that destination as your own church, because there are so many uniquenesses that you only know about. So we create the resources and help you be able to put it all together, but it's still going to be your ministry.
I love it. I love it. If you're listening today, I know that something that Shaunti and Jim have talked about with the church has touched you. And you can get a copy of the book at newlife.com, or you can call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But, if you are concerned about the people that you sit next to every Sunday, if maybe you have a concern, I would just encourage you, reach out today and ask what we can do, what I can do to help somebody else, or what do I need to do to get the help that I need. We don't want you to get stuck anywhere. New Life has been helping people for many, many years. Jim and Shaunti are going to join me after the show for a special segment that we'll release at another time. But I'm so glad that you joined us today, both of you, and the important work that you're doing. New Life is, we've been around for a long time wanting people to get the help that they need. We want you to be connected, and we want to provide the resources. Thanks for listening today, and thank you, Shaunti, and thank you, Jim. Thank you, listeners. If you want to get more information, go to newlife.com or give us a call, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.